I suppose before I just go to the members, there's huge concern out there among all stakeholders about the bark beetle and the huge financial implications there would be if the beetle came into the country. I suppose just, have we department personnel in Scotland on the ports where this has been examined and certified as being free, or is it purely on the grounds of that we're being told that the parts of Scotland where the timber is coming here is being felled, that part of Scotland is classified as clear of the beetle? And what has been done then when they come to the port? How much personnel have we in the 3 ports that you've mentioned? What exactly examinations are taking place in the port? And, we have unfortunately experienced ash dieback and the huge devastation that has done to the owners, unfortunate to have it, and the amount of land that is lying, that has 20 years growth gone down to Swanee, and the huge economic loss that has been. But this would be minuscule towards the financial devastation there would be if we got back into our spruce plantations. So I suppose, have we department personnel in Scotland checking that everything has been certified correctly there? And then how much personnel have we in the ports here, and what checks are being done in the ports here? And are you satisfied, as the Director of Forestry, that you have the resources at your disposal to ensure that there is enough biosecurity in place to ensure that the beetle doesn't get into our country? And I suppose the last question then is Northern Ireland, and the fact that our border with Northern Ireland is you could say obviously unprotected. Are we happy that the same precautions are being taken in Northern Ireland with timber coming in from Scotland to Northern Ireland, and that the beetle can't come into our jurisdiction through the back door?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll start with that one first. So Ireland and Northern Ireland work as a single epidemiological unit under the EU plant health rules. So they are, in effect, we work as one single unit in terms of import trade. And interestingly, in the last 2 to 3 years, they haven't taken any imports of coniferous roundwood from the pest-free area. They haven't taken any imports of roundwood into their plants in Northern Ireland. In recent years, it's been supplied by local supply, as we understand it. In terms of I'll hand over to Seamus Dunn in a second to outline exactly what happens in Scotland, and then in terms of the ports inspections that we carry out here. But just to say that we are obviously concerned about these pests. That's why we sought the protected zones for these many years ago. And the difference here perhaps to ash dieback is the fact that they are fully regulated, and that allows us to take actions and do the surveys that we do, and take actions if we have any findings. And I suppose the other point I'd make is that the Scottish authorities, whether they're a member of the EU or not, they're part of what I mentioned earlier, the International Plant Protection Convention. And under that, for them to send any product to us, their National Plant Protection Organisation must carry out the appropriate surveys and must be able to show to us that they can comply with the EU import requirements, which is what they do. And then I'll come back maybe just in terms of the resources afterwards, but I'll just let Seamus explain exactly what the Scottish do before they issue the certs to us.
Thanks, Barry. I suppose just to answer your question directly, we don't have staff that work in Scotland. It's the Scottish authorities that carry out the works there. They look at all the felling sites that are being felled for Ireland. They examine about 200 trees or so per site. There has never been a finding of the spruce bark beetles in the PFA, the pest-free area. They have pheromone lures dotted around Scotland. They have billet traps, and they carry out aerial surveys twice a year within the pest-free area. So I suppose the key thing is that we would then rely on, in the first instance, the phytosanitary certificate then that comes from Scotland. All the logs that come from Scotland are what we call red-routed. They can only pass the port. This is since Brexit. Before Brexit, there was no border controls. So since Brexit, all of these are red-routed, so they can only be released when we're satisfied that they can be released. So we would do there's a phytosanitary search. We would do a documentary check on this. We would make sure that this, as Barry mentioned, no logs can come in from any other place in Europe other than this pest-free area. This is the only place in Europe that is also absent of the spruce bark beetles that we have here. So no logs can come in from Germany or Spain or France, and that's what the plant health regulations state.
Just ask a clarification question, Mr. Dunn.
Yep.
How often in the last 3 to 4 years has the border of the pest-free area changed?
It hasn't changed.
So it is the same for the last 3 to 4 years?
Correct.
It hasn't moved?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we would do the documentary check. The first thing we do is make sure that it is from the pest-free area. We'd map the various forests that it's on. We would then carry out an identity and a physical check. We're very happy, if you wish, as a committee, to actually come to maybe Wicklow Port is the port now that seems to be the most frequent in terms of inspections. To have a look at what we do, we take logs from various parts. We don't look at every log. There are literally thousands of logs on each shipment. We don't look at every log, obviously. We take a sample of about 30 to 45, 50 logs from the top, middle, and bottom, and we give that an examination. We have found bark beetles sporadically on these, particularly in the older logs, but any bark beetles that we have found, we've sent them to the lab, and they've been bark beetles that we have here, so native bark beetles. So to date, we haven't found any of the quarantine bark beetles that we're interested in. And then once we're satisfied then with that, we release the cargo. So, for example, this month, I think we've had one consignment in Wicklow, one consignment in Rushbrook and Cork towards the end of the month. So I think it's only perhaps 2 this month, yeah.
And so, Jackie, just to come back to your point in terms of the resources, and look, I believe we have the resources to deal with that. Obviously, if there's some positives from Brexit, is that we have fabulous facilities in Dublin Port and in Wexford. But in addition to that, then we have we have agreed inspection posts solely for the Roundwood through Wicklow Port and predominantly Rushbrook, to be honest, as the other port is there in Cork, but it's predominantly between those two. So I believe we've sufficient staff to inspect those consignments. We get pre-notified when they come in. They do not get released until we are satisfied that the laboratory and our entomologists are happy that the consignment is free from the quarantine pest that we're concerned in. So it's a double approach where we have the exporting country is certifying to us under the international agreements that it has done its surveys and its inspections and is certifying it free, and then we inspect it as it comes through. And so for 2024, we'll be doing 100% inspections on all these consignments that come through, and I believe I have the resources for that. In addition to that, I suppose there's been reference in terms of our inspection protocol, and Seamus has just outlined that there. And so that's, again, based on an international standard. It's called ISPM 31. It's part of the International Plant Protection Convention standards, and so we follow that, and it's basically how to have a confidence in terms of the sampling that you take, looking at these 40, 50 logs, depending on the size of the consignment, to ensure that we believe that's a representative sample to show freedom from the pest. So that's the approach that we take, and again, working very closely with our Scottish colleagues and our Northern colleagues. I mean, we're talking on a weekly, if not daily basis, currently around this matter.
Okay.